All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Are the Niners Super Bowl contenders without Brandon Aiyuk? We hit that coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. So go say hi to Damon and Mary, get some brisket, and tell them the Krug sent you. Now, this video brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use that promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they will match you up to your first $100. Well, the question of the day is, are the 49ers Super Bowl contenders without Brandon Aiyuk? Well, we're going to hear a couple sound bites here. Let's hear first from Michael Lombardi. Michael Lombardi went on the Pat McAfee show on ESPN and just said, hey, you know what? This ain't the NBA, man. If in the NBA, James Harden says he wants out and, Daryl Morey's trading him within 48 hours. In the NFL, you can say you want to be traded all you want, but it doesn't mean you're going to be traded. And let's hear the perspective on the Aiyuk holdout situation from Michael Lombardi, longtime NFL executive, on earlier this week with Pat McAfee.
The NFL is not the NBA. You can't be James Harden in the NFL. You can't say, I demand a trade, and then Daryl Morey will trade you. Like, you could say all the demands you want, but the 49ers aren't trading Brandon Aiyuk.
Okay, so D-Butt's going to ask you a question about this, I assume, here in a matter of moments. But there was a scene in Hard Knocks there where the Giants – don't give me a full Hard Knocks answer because I'm excited for the way D-Butt asked you the question, because we have been very fascinated by this. Mm-hmm. And we are very excited for you to kind of give your input on it all. But there was a scene where basically GM says, do we want to go through all the bullshit again with the Saquon Barkley, the public stuff, which leave that exact situation alone. Let's talk about just NFL league-wide. Whenever there is public bullshit and drama, humans in the front office in GM, that weighs on them, or are the places that are good, they just, this is a part of the job. Like, because it feels like John Lynch, and also obviously with Bill Belichick up there at the Patriots, you were there, but Lynch has dealt with like this type of drama and bullshit numerous times before. Yeah. They had Jimmy G practicing on another field in training camp. Another field. They said his era was over. Yep. He's on another field so he doesn't get hurt, and we're just trying to trade him, and then he ends up coming back. It's like they deal with the drama in the public. They're not worried about this getting too ugly or too dramatic or too much of a spectacle with Aiyuk. They seemingly sat in. Why do some teams do that? And then it does seem like some situations, from what we're learning, it's like they don't want to deal with all the drama shit and the public shit.
It's called alignment, right? When you're aligned as an organization, then there's nothing from the outside can really affect you, because they can't get to your owner, they can't get to your vice president or president. Everything is kind of aligned. Everybody understands what we're doing. It's not on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. Today in 32 cities, everybody's on the same page, but not all the teams are aligned. Alignment creates the belief that the noise on the outside will never affect us. This is what we're doing. This is how we have to approach it. This is what we believe in. And I think the 49ers are perfectly aligned to handle that situation. Look, the Cincinnati Bengals, you don't think they have great alignment? Mike Brown, the owner of the team, he says he's not trading T. Higgins. You could take it to the bank. He said he wasn't trading Jesse Bates. You could take it to the bank. They're completely aligned. And it doesn't matter what the Cincinnati Enquirer writes or what the Post writes or what, any of the insiders talk about. You ain't changing what Mike Brown does, because Mike Brown's aligned in what he wants to do.
And those Niners have seemingly been the same exact way this entire time. And we're not saying it doesn't suck for Aiyuk. Like, I would love Aiyuk on the Indianapolis Colts. I would absolutely love Aiyuk on the Colts. But it's just like the reality of the situation, shout out to Ryan McGee, is like in the NFL, especially in this particular case, the Niners hold the cards for the next 3 years if they want to franchise tag them twice. And it's like, that sucks. But that's what happens with a lot of great teams, is like there becomes too much, too little to be able to give. And then who gets sorted and who's kind of the odd person out. Feels like Aiyuk is that. And we don't love it, but it is just, this is Niners football. Yep. And this is kind of how it's been.
But this is what was collectively bargained. This is what was, and so those tools and that apparatus that has been given to the agreement between the players and the owners and the management level is giving them the ability to have 3 more seasons with them. Now, look, here's the real rub. They don't want to trade Aiyuk, and they want to pay Aiyuk. The difference here is simply this. He has a certain level of value, and they have a certain level of what they perceive as value. It's called a negotiation, right? And so that's really the rub. It isn't because we don't want you or they don't want them.
And now the question, that was Michael Lombardi on with Pat McAfee talking a little bit about how Aiyuk's not going to be traded. Let's hear as well from Nick Wright. Nick Wright feels like the 49ers can't trade Brandon Aiyuk because Brock Purdy's not good enough and that they can't win without Brandon Aiyuk. Let's hear from Nick Wright on Fox talking about why the 49ers absolutely, in his mind, can't afford to trade Brandon Aiyuk.
They have the highest paid running back in the league. They have the highest paid tackle in the league. They have the second or third highest paid tight end in the league. That market might have moved slightly. And Debo makes good money for a wide receiver. Yeah. That market has moved a lot.
Who also requested a trade.
Debo requested a trade a year ago and then got his money and got it worked out. The pragmatic thing to do, especially when you are about to have to go from having your starting quarterback be roughly the 75th highest paid quarterback in football to, I assume, one of the highest, would be to recoup significant draft capital for, your second best, maybe your best wide receiver. Kind of depends on the year.
Yep.
2 years ago it was Debo. Last year it was Aiyuk.
He's healthier.
Right. But they're not going to do it because they know that as long as Brock is the quarterback, that he needs to have all the Avengers in place for them to have their best chance at success. And right now they are in a legitimate Super Bowl window, and that goes out the window, without this guy. Because forget being able to make it happen without any stars on the outside. He's going to need all of the stars on the outside and the best running back and the best tackle and the second or third best tight end. That is what's going to make this thing go. It's what has made this thing go. So I agree with Brew. The Niners are not going to trade Brandon Aiyuk because they can't afford to trade Brandon Aiyuk. While the Bills are saying, you know what? We have one legitimate receiver. We can trade him. The Chiefs can trade Tyreek Hill. We see receivers get traded. The Niners are saying, I think, are going to say, no, we can't afford to do it, even though to clean up their books and to get draft capital, they should do it. They can't because they don't have that force multiplier at the quarterback position.
And they also need to win it now.
All right, that's Nick Wright talking about how, the 49ers need a full complement of talent behind Brock Purdy for Purdy to win a Super Bowl. And all this Purdy disrespect always rubs me wrong. But, he may be onto something. I mean, it's a team game. Brock Purdy's going to, can he elevate the team by himself? No, nobody really does. I mean, I guess you can make an argument Mahomes or Allen does. But for the most part, a quarterback's just one guy on the team. He can help elevate a team. But it's rare that a quarterback just does it. It's not like quarterbacks win Super Bowls with bad teams. Quarterbacks win Super Bowls when they're on good teams and then they play well in the playoffs. But it is interesting listening to Nick Wright say that, you know what? The Niners can't afford to move Aiyuk. If they move Aiyuk, they can't win the Super Bowl. I won't go that far. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's a situation where if they move Brandon Aiyuk, they can't win the Super Bowl. I just think that you're going to have to get something significant back for him. I don't think you can trade Brandon Aiyuk for a draft choice and win the Super Bowl. And if you did, man, that would be an amazing accomplishment. If they traded Brandon Aiyuk, got nothing back except for 2025 draft choices, and they somehow won the Super Bowl this year, that would surprise me. But if you're able to move Brandon Aiyuk and all of a sudden you get a Minkah Fitzpatrick or a Trayvon Walker or Brian Thomas or Devontae Adams or Michael Mayer or Kenny Moore or Joey Bosa or Jonathan Allen, a significant piece to the puzzle. If you trade Aiyuk for draft picks, I'm in agreement with Nick Wright. They can't win the Super Bowl. But if you turn Aiyuk into Jonathan Allen and Jahan Dotson, I still think you can win the Super Bowl. If you turned him into Devontae Adams, I still think you could win the Super Bowl. If you traded him somehow and turned him into Christian Gonzalez and Demario Douglas, I think you could still win the Super Bowl. So I think you can win the Super Bowl, but you have to get players back for Aiyuk that help you win this year. If you trade him solely for draft picks, I don't think you're winning the Super Bowl. Anyway, tell me what you think on the video in the comments below. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for sponsoring this video. And of course, thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video as well. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.